Good morning and welcome to Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center. I'm Ken Appel with NASA Communications. Expected to undock here in just about 20 minutes from now at 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Eastern. Dragon delivered more than 3 tons of crew cargo and science experiments upon its arrival to the orbiting laboratory about a month ago, making up SpaceX's 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station for NASA. And we did just hear a few moments ago that the SpaceX and NASA teams have pulled go for today's undocking. The research-packed Dragon spacecraft is sealed and ready to return to Earth, expecting a splashdown off the coast of California tomorrow, June 17th, at approximately 7:11 a.m. Central, 5:11 a.m. Pacific, returning scientific experiments and critical hardware for teams and researchers here on the ground. Here on the ground in Mission Control Houston, NASA and SpaceX teams have pulled go for undocking, right now currently targeted for 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Pacific. Mission Control Houston operates 24/7, 365 days a year with 3 shifts per day known as orbits. And currently here on the ground in Houston in the International Space Station Flight Control Room is the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers, being led by Flight Director Diana Trujillo. Her role today is to lead and work closely with her team of flight controllers on the ground as they work integrated operations with the SpaceX team in Hawthorne, California. Today's Capcom, or capsule communicator, who you see to Diana Trujillo's right, is Alex Canelacos. Capcom serves as the primary communication between Mission Control and the crew on board station, and you'll hear his voice today during today's operation, talking with the crew on board. The 34th SpaceX Commercial Resupply mission began on Friday, May 15th, lifting off on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. About 10 minutes after launch, the Dragon spacecraft separated from the second or upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket into its preliminary orbit to begin its nearly 37-hour journey to the orbiting laboratory. Following that transit, Dragon docked to the forward port of the space station's Harmony module on Sunday, May 17th, which has now been its home for about 1 month. The mission delivered more than 3 tons of scientific investigations, supplies, and equipment to the 7-member Expedition 74 crew living and working aboard the International Space Station. And this particular Dragon spacecraft is no stranger to the International Space Station. This mission marks a record 6th time this spacecraft has delivered cargo to the orbiting laboratory, having previously flown the 22nd, 24th, 27th, 30th, and 32nd resupply missions. One of the most research-packed Dragon spacecraft returns to date, biological material samples along with tested hardware are heading back to research teams on Earth for further analysis and advancing NASA's work to prepare humans for exploration beyond low Earth orbit and to deliver benefits back home. And if you're just joining us, teams here in Mission Control Houston and the teams at SpaceX in Hawthorne, California have pulled go to send the undock command about 5 minutes ahead of the physical separation. That undock command will take place at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. Once the undock command is sent, the umbilicals that are attached to the space station, along with the hooks that are keeping Dragon hard mated to station, will retract to allow that physical separation to take place. Again, we're expecting that physical separation to take place around 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Eastern. As you can see here on the screens in Mission Control Houston, we are currently in an orbital nighttime, and so once we get some views of Dragon, we will bring those to you. Preparations for today's undocking have been taking place over the past few days and weeks as cargo has been packed into the Dragon spacecraft for return. And then today, just about a couple of hours ago, around 9:01 a.m. Central, 10:01 a.m. Eastern, the hatches between the space station and Dragon were sealed. And along here with the team in Houston, they are working hand in hand with the SpaceX Mission Control team out in Hawthorne, California, who is also on console supporting today's undocking. The SpaceX team, which you see live on your screen there on the left, is led by their mission director, commonly referred to as the MD. After the Dragon spacecraft crosses the approach ellipsoid, which is an invisible 2 by 2 by 4 kilometer safety boundary, approximately 1,000 meters away around the International Space Station, joint operations between NASA and SpaceX teams will end. And once Dragon crosses out of the approach ellipsoid, responsibility for the spacecraft will be handed back to the SpaceX team through splashdown, which is expected to take place off the coast of California tomorrow, June 17th at 7:11 a.m. Central, 5:11 a.m. Pacific. If you are just now joining us, we are providing live coverage of the undocking of SpaceX's 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission for NASA to the International Space Station. NASA and SpaceX integrated operation teams have pulled go for undocking at 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Eastern, just under 11 minutes from now. To give you an idea where on station that today's SpaceX Dragon spacecraft is about to depart from, here on your screen is the current International Space Station configuration. Here you see labeled CRS 24 Cargo Dragon is currently docked to what is the forward-facing port of the Harmony module. And right above it, docked to what is called the Zenith or space-facing port of the same module today's departing Dragon is docked to, is the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft named Freedom that carried NASA's SpaceX Crew 12 to the space station in February. Including the soon-to-be departing Dragon today, there are currently 6 spacecraft parked at the space station, including SpaceX Crew 12 Dragon, Northrop Grumman's Cygnus XL spacecraft, the Roscosmos Soyuz MS-28 crew spacecraft, as well as their Progress 94 and 95 resupply cargo ships. In just over 3 minutes from now, the undock command will be sent to the Dragon spacecraft to begin its departure and return to Earth, bringing home science and hardware for teams of researchers here on the ground. Physical separation of the Dragon spacecraft from the forward port of the station's Harmony module is expected to take place in about 8 minutes from now. And just like its approach to the space station, Dragon's departure is fully autonomous. The undocking command will be sent about 5 minutes prior to physical separation, and at that point, the umbilicals will retract. Those umbilicals connect Dragon systems to the space station, transferring power, telemetry, and commands between the 2 spacecraft during Dragon's stay. After the umbilicals retract, the hooks that are currently keeping Dragon attached to the space station will unlatch, and there are 2 sets of 6 hooks for a total of 12. Once that process is complete, Dragon will then be ready to depart from the space station and will begin to move itself further away. And to do so, Dragon will first execute 2 short thruster firings to undock using a combination of the 12 Draco thrusters around the base of the spacecraft. The first firing, known as Undock Burn 1, will break any stiction between Dragon and the docking port, and then the second firing, just seconds later, Undock Burn 2, will slowly back the spacecraft away, marking that physical separation that we're expecting around 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Eastern.
Station Houston on Space Ground 2 for Dragon departure status.
With you on 2.
Wanted to let you know we're working a couple more items down here on the ground. Right now we're targeting 1605 for undock, and that may adjust some of your exercise constraints, shift to the right 5 minutes.
Copy 1605 targeted undock, and that will affect our shutter and exercise constraints.
Great read.
As you just heard from Capcom, our capsule communicator, Alex Kanalakos, to the crew on board station, the teams here in Mission Control Houston and SpaceX in Hawthorne, California are delaying undocking by 5 minutes to allow SpaceX teams to review data on one of their navigation systems. That would put undocking, or physical separation, around 11:10 a.m. Central, 12:10 p.m. Eastern. We're about 2 minutes away from that expected undock command to be sent to Dragon.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 2 for undock status.
With you on 2.
Yeah, Jack, just wanted to let you know that we're troubleshooting a part of the GNC system on Dragon. We're looking, right now we're still go for undock, but we want to regain full redundancy. And because of that, we're going to delay undock till 1620. That's our new target.
Hey guys, troubleshooting GNC. You could still undock, but you're choosing not to, and you're targeting 1620 for the next attempt. Thanks for the update.
That's a good read, and obviously that shifts your constraints on the shutters and the exercise to the right. 20 minutes.
All right, we're copying the constraints shift in right for shutters and T2. Station. I think you implied this, but the GNC issues on the Dragon side, not on the station side. Is that correct?
Jack, with you on 2. Yeah, we had a radiation hit on axis 2 of the accelerometer. Per our flight rules, we can still undock in our current state, but we're going to power cycle that IMU so that we can regain full redundancy.
Okay, that makes sense. It's on the Dragon side, but appreciate the clarification.
As you just heard Capcom speaking with NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, undocking has been delayed. The physical undocking of Dragon has been delayed to 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern. SpaceX is working to power cycle one of the 6 IMUs, or inertial measurement units, to ensure they have the proper data and gain full redundancy they need with the GNC system. We're expecting that undock command at 11:20 a.m. Central, 12:20 p.m. Eastern, with an undocking or physical separation targeted for 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 a.m. Eastern.
station on 2 for exercise constraints.
With you on 2, Jessica.
Yeah, the changes in undock time, I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with you for exercise. It looks like the no exercise constraint is only for 5 minutes, beginning at undock and lasting for 5 minutes, and then the no T2 is 20 minutes after undock, lasting for 10 minutes. So right now, the current undock of 4:20, the first one would begin at 4:20, is that correct?
You are correct, Jessica.
All right, great, thanks. And we're still looking at 4:20 currently, correct?
That's correct, 1620.
Okay, copy, thanks.
And as we wait for that undock command in a little over 6 minutes from now, here's a look at the 7 Expedition 74 crew members living and working aboard the International Space Station. At the top are the crew of 4 that arrived in February aboard NASA's SpaceX Crew 12 mission. From left to right are NASA astronauts Jessica Meir, Jack Hathaway, European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fedyaev. Upon their arrival to the space station in February, they joined the below crew of 3 that arrived to the International Space Station aboard the Soyuz MS-28 on Thanksgiving, which was November 27th, 2025. From left to right are International Space Station Commander and Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Sverchkov, NASA astronaut Chris Williams in the middle, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Mikheyev. You are currently seeing a live look at the uncrewed SpaceX Dragon cargo spacecraft currently docked to the International Space Station's forward port of the Harmony module. And we just heard between the SpaceX teams and Mission Control here in Houston that SpaceX has concluded that troubleshooting and they had a good power cycle. They're in a good nominal state with full redundancy recovered. Teams at SpaceX in Hawthorne, California, and here in Mission Control Houston just pulled go to send the undocking sequence here in just about 1 minute from now. We are now just under 1 minute away from that undock command being sent, and there are no concerns for departure at this time. We are standing by for that undock command. The undock sequence has begun. With that undock command being sent, the departure process is completely autonomous. Those umbilicals were attached following the docking of Dragon spacecraft last month, and they help provide data and telemetry between the space station to the Dragon spacecraft. And we have confirmation that those umbilicals have been demated. Next up will be the retraction of the 12 hooks that are currently attaching Dragon to the International Space Station. The first set of hooks are driving. It's been just a minute since that undock command was sent, and again, the entire undock sequence takes about 5 minutes from when the command was sent to the physical separation taking place that we're expecting here at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern. Once all 12 hooks have unlatched, there will be 2 short thruster firings that'll help break any stiction and then push Dragon initially away from the International Space Station. You are currently seeing a live look of the uncrewed SpaceX Dragon cargo spacecraft currently docked to the International Space Station's forward port of the Harmony module. And the first set of hooks are now open, and Dragon is committed to undock.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 2 for undock status. First set of hooks open. Dragon is committed to undock.
The second set of hooks are continuing to drive open.
Station Peace Dragon's committed to undock.
We're about a minute and a half away from the expected physical separation. And we have confirmation that the Dragon spacecraft has undocked from the International Space Station at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern, as the space station was traveling 260 miles over the North Pacific.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And you just heard that call up there from the Capcom, or capsule communicator.
Good separation.
Capcom is here on the ground in Mission Control Houston and serves as the voice link between the crew and the ground.
Station Houston, Dragon departure burn 0 complete.
And we do have confirmation that that first departure burn was completed. That was a 17-second burn and the first of 4 departure burns, which helped to move Dragon further away from the International Space Station. With that undocking confirmed at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern, the space station was traveling 260 miles over the North Pacific. If you're just now joining us, we're live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Mission Control Houston, providing coverage for the undocking of SpaceX's 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission for NASA. Good views here of the Dragon cargo spacecraft, which separated from the International Space Station at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern. Dragon is now maneuvering toward the exiting the keep-out sphere and eventually the approach ellipsoid. The next burn will be in under 2 minutes, around 11:30 a.m. Central, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. That burn will last about 23 seconds and will help move the spacecraft beyond the keep-out sphere. Some really great views here from the departing SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. There on the bottom is the forward port of the station's Harmony module. And we're about 30 seconds away from departure burn 1, which will last about 23 seconds. And we just received confirmation that depart burn 1 is taking place, which will last about 23 seconds. Now the Dragon cargo spacecraft is moving through that keep out sphere, and again, that's the first of 2 safety boundaries. Depart burn 1 is complete and was nominal. Good views of the International Space Station here.
Station Houston, departure burn 1 is complete.
On the bottom of your screen, you can see the docking port that Dragon just undocked from. And then at the top, just above that docking port, is the NASA SpaceX Crew 12 vehicle named Freedom that delivered the Crew 12 crew back in February of this year.
Station Houston, Dragon has exited the keep out sphere.
And we just heard that Dragon has exited the keep out sphere. And here's a good visual on your screen of the keep out sphere and approach ellipsoid. These are 2 imaginary safety boundaries around the space station. They require go, no-go poles in the unlikely event that something goes wrong with an approaching or departing spacecraft. The first is called the keep out sphere, which we just heard the call that Dragon has exited. And think of it like the neighborhood of the space station. It extends 200 meters away from the orbiting laboratory. And once Dragon passes through that keep out sphere, which it just did, it'll then travel out and pass what is called the approach ellipsoid, which will ultimately set the Dragon cargo spacecraft up on its journey back to Earth on a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. Once Dragon exits that approach ellipsoid, NASA will be out of joint operations with SpaceX and their mission control team in Hawthorne, California. The SpaceX team will continue to monitor the rest of Dragon's autonomous flight through splashdown. The next burn that Dragon will undergo is depart burn 2, which will be in about 43 minutes from now. At that time, we will be out of joint operations with SpaceX, and we won't be live for that coverage.
Houston, Chris on 2 for a Yedeve question.
With you on 2, Chris.
Hey, I am temp stowing this Yedeve 1485 install, and I noticed we've had a Yedeve temp stowed there for a while now, 1318. I just wanted to double check if we were tracking that as back in the Node 3 end cone, or if we're tracking it as temp stowed in stall.
We're checking.
I guess the better question is, where do we actually want that one?
Copy. We'll get you an answer.
If you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of the undocking of SpaceX's 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission for NASA to the International Space Station. Docking was delayed by 20 minutes, ultimately undocking at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern, as SpaceX powered cycled one of the 6 IMUs, or inertial measurement units, to ensure they have the proper data and gain full redundancy. SpaceX concluded that troubleshooting with a good power cycle and full redundancy was recovered. SpaceX will make up for that delayed undocking time with its burn plan, targeting to splash down off the coast of California at 5:11 a.m. Pacific Time, 7:11 a.m. Central tomorrow, June 17th. While we await Dragon's exit of the approach ellipsoid, let's take a look at some of the science and research experiments returning to Earth on board Dragon today.
Chris on 2.
All right, well, thank you for letting us know about 1318. We would like that stowed in Node 3 port end cone. And also one request, when you have those photos you just took of the other Yedeve, can you please let us know that they're on the SSC for us?
Absolutely. I'm going to put them on SSC6 in a moment. And where in the port end cone would you like that one? We have multiple CTDs that we've been trying to put them in.
While today's undocking takes place, there's still activity taking place aboard the International Space Station. While we await the exit of approach ellipsoid, let's take a look at some of the science returning today. The atmospheric waves experiment concludes its mission with today's departure. During more than 2 years aboard the space station, the atmospheric waves experiment captured over 80 million nighttime images and investigated how storms, hurricanes, and other events affect satellite communications and critical navigation systems. Data from this experiment will be made available to the public, allowing researchers and citizen scientists to continue exploring Earth's atmosphere and space weather. Also returning on board Dragon is the InSpa Auxilium bioprinter, which explores new ways to 3D print replacement tissues and medical devices in space that could help repair injuries and improve patient care here on Earth. 1 cartilage tissue, 1 liver tissue, and 1 kidney tissue are returning to Earth for analysis. Results could help advance treatments for cartilage injuries and organ disease on Earth. Also packed inside Dragon is the ZBOT-NC. This helps researchers improve cryogenic fluid storage for fuel and life support systems by understanding how a gas layer affects pressure, boiling, and fluid movement inside super cold fuel tanks in space. ZBOT-NC returns to Earth with 12 hard drives containing nearly 10 terabytes of data collected aboard the space station. Results could prevent fuel loss on future missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. And also returning is MEF1, which aims to uncover how spaceflight affects blood clotting and the body's immune response. The results could support new ways to keep astronauts healthy during future exploration missions. Biological samples are returning to Earth for analysis to better understand how spaceflight impacts the function of blood clotting cells. If you're just now joining us, we are live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Mission Control, Houston, providing coverage of the undocking of SpaceX's 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission for NASA to the space station. The Dragon cargo spacecraft is separated from the International Space Station, and that undocking took place at 11:25 Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern, while Dragon and the International Space Station were flying 260 miles over the North Pacific. And we have confirmation that Dragon has exited the approach ellipsoid. Dragon is now over 1,000 meters away from the International Space Station. Critical science, research, and hardware is officially on its way to researchers and teams on the ground to benefit humanity. Now, the SpaceX team will continue to monitor the Dragon cargo spacecraft through its next milestones and burns as it makes its way to splashdown.
Station Houston for Dragon undocking and departure status. Dragon is outside the approach ellipsoid on a 24-hour safe-free drift trajectory.
Station copies all. That's great news, and hope it has a safe and wonderful ride home.
Good words from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. And with that, the Dragon spacecraft for NASA's SpaceX 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission has safely departed the International Space Station today at 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern, as the space station and Dragon were traveling 260 miles over the North Pacific Ocean. Docking was delayed by 20 minutes, ultimately pushing undocking to 11:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 p.m. Eastern Time today, as SpaceX power cycled one of the 6 IMUs, or inertial measurement units, to ensure they had the proper data and full redundancy. SpaceX concluded that troubleshooting with a good power cycle and full redundancy was recovered. SpaceX will make up for that delayed docking time with its burn plan, targeting to splash down off the coast of California at 5 a.m. Pacific, 7:11 a.m. Central tomorrow, June 17th. Just a few minutes ago, the spacecraft crossed the approach ellipsoid, and joint operations between the NASA Mission Control Team here in Houston and the SpaceX Flight Control Team in Hawthorne, California has concluded. The Dragon spacecraft spent about a month docked to the forward port of the space station's Harmony module, delivering thousands of pounds of research, hardware, and supplies to the orbiting laboratory for NASA. One of the most research-packed Dragon spacecrafts to return to date is now on its way back home, completing the 34th SpaceX Commercial Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station. Splashdown is scheduled to take place tomorrow, June 17th, at approximately 7 a.m. Central, 5:11 a.m. Pacific off the coast of California. Splashdown won't be broadcast by NASA, but you can follow along for updates on NASA's Space Station blog at nasa.gov/blog/spacestation. And with that, we'll conclude our coverage today. Thank you for joining us for the departure of the Dragon spacecraft for NASA's SpaceX 34th Commercial Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston.